Hi, I'm Zoe Aarons. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm now a first-year grad student in a joint program between MIT and Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, where I'm studying biological oceanography. I took computer science, I think kind of on a whim my freshman spring. It seemed like a really useful skill. I felt like all of these people had taken computer science in the past, and it seemed like they could just do things that were really interesting and had this understanding of computer science, which to me was like a mystery. I wasn't really sure exactly what it was, but talking to some of my friends, I thought it might be something I would like. And if nothing else, I thought it was a skill I should at least have intro in. I think I was just kind of hooked. I've always liked puzzles, and that's really what computer science felt like to me. As I went through intro, and I think just the way of thinking was something that I found really exciting. And then I think as I kind of finished that course and started taking further courses, it also just became an excitement over what I could do with it and how I could do things so much more efficiently than I would be doing them otherwise. So I think it was a mixture of just kind of that I really love the way of thinking that you use in computer science, as well as realizing the applications. Honestly, I don't think I really knew what it was. Coding was just kind of this vague word. I remember entering the first week of intro computer science and just not knowing what I was getting into. Just kind of generally being what am I going to be doing in this course? So I wouldn't say I had any misconceptions, I just didn't have anything. So I spent the summer after my sophomore year doing research at Bowdoin. I had reached out my sophomore fall to Michèle LaVigne in the EOS department, who I had had as a professor for intro oceanography. And I knew I was interested in the work in her lab, so I reached out and asked her about it. And she was happy to set up a meeting and help me get funding for that summer. I had told her, I'm interested in oceanography. I'm also interested in computer science. I'm really enjoying that. And when I entered for that summer, she kind of had a perfect project that was I could continue work that was being done in her lab, but she also needed someone who knew some computer science. We were going out to use an instrument. We had to go all the way to California to sample these corals. They have these huge data sets that come out of it. You're sampling these kind of lines along a coral and getting so many data points as you go along and so many different samples. Historically, they'd been analyzing them in Excel by hand, and it just took a long time to know. And so I had a few weeks before we went, and I was able to just write some Python code that we could take the immediate output of the CSV file and at least see if it was giving us generally what we expected, not do a full analysis yet, but make sure that there was no errors and that we weren't going all the way there and then coming back with data that was inherently flawed. And so it was a really cool way to just get to see that computer science was so useful for oceanography and for, I think, all sciences. I'd say starting during COVID has definitely been an adventure, but it's been really wonderful. And I think I was definitely prepared very well coming out of Bowdoin and felt like I have the background that I need. And it's just really exciting to get to dive into a subject matter I really care about and to take courses specifically on that. So that's been really exciting for me, and to start to develop a community of people who are also interested in those same or those related topics. And so I found that to be really rewarding. And obviously I'm really excited to actually get to spend time with these people in person in the future and get to be on campus. But even remotely, it's been really wonderful and really nice to enter. So in oceanography, you enter into a grad program with a specific advisor. So I already knew generally where I was going. I'm very fortunate in that my advisor's research areas are very broad, and that there was a lot of work for me within that to really decide exactly what I want to do. I'm not bound to a specific project. But in general, the group studies phytoplankton or marine microbial biology and looks at the distribution of phytoplankton and where and why they exist. And I'm really interested specifically in the polar regions. And so our group uses computational models to understand this distribution, looking at the larger community structure, as well as some people look at a more individual cell structure and the genetics. But I'm really interested in how phytoplankton distribution and species type is being altered by climate change. So right now, I'm still working on developing a project, but I'm trying to look specifically at how photosynthesis differs between phytoplankton in the Arctic that either live in sea ice or live in the water below, and how the differences in how they photosynthesize might change as we see sea ice changing in the Arctic, since the Arctic is the fastest warming place on the planet. So it's a really relevant place to study, and just really interesting to understand. My lab largely uses Python and MATLAB. MATLAB's really big in the science field, and it's very easy to pick up once you know some other programming languages. But it's very nice for the data sets that you work with in earth science, and the types of outputs that come out of models. But Python is, I would say, the largest and the most up-and-coming language in the field. There's still some Fortran sticking around, or you'll see some other languages used for very specific purposes. But I think that just Python is definitely the largest thing that I found in a lot of the natural sciences. There's a lot of use of R as well, but if you know Python, you can kind of use that for pretty much everything in the fields. So I was an Earth and Oceanographic science major and a computer science minor, and that combination especially has been really helpful. Entering into earth sciences, I felt like I had the oceanography background from my coursework at Bowdoin, but computer science has really given me the skills to actually analyze the data I'm given. So a lot of the work I've done in the past has worked with the outputs of climate models, and so you end up with these huge data sets. So I'd say specifically taking courses like algorithms at Bowdoin has really allowed me to analyze those data sets in a way that's actually efficient and doesn't shut down the server and overload it, which is what happens if you're not efficient. And so those have been really good skills, and it's allowed me to just like enter into the work. I found that what my mentors at Bowdoin and beyond Bowdoin have cared about the most is just having an interest in something and showing the ability to learn to do that, not necessarily coming in with the exact skills. And I feel like Bowdoin has really given me the ability to learn additional skills, but also already given me the skill sets I need to begin. So I already have the basic computational knowledge, and I can learn additional pieces along the way, or I can apply the computer science knowledge I have and learn more about the topic I'm actually applying it to. So I've definitely found that the background I got at Bowdoin has really set me up for what I'm doing now. I don't know if it surprised me, but I think the most interesting thing is all of the different backgrounds people are coming in with. In the biological oceanography group, there's students like me who came in from an earth science background or came in from a more computational background, as well as students who came in from a pure biology background. So it's very interesting to see as we kind of learn the opposite knowledge of each other. So right now I'm reading a lot about photosynthesis because that relates to some work I'm doing. But other students I know came in and the first class they took this fall was a Python course, so that they could actually analyze the work that they have. So that's been really cool to see, just kind of the diversity of backgrounds coming in, and then how we're kind of all working to have the knowledge we need. Yeah, I think this relates to oceanography, but also to kind of any science, which is just to take advantage of research opportunities. That was the most important thing for me in deciding that I wanted to go to grad school, but also what I wanted to go to grad school for. I spent a summer at Bowdoin doing research. I also did an REU, which is research experiences for undergrads, for a summer. And then I also spent a year after Bowdoin working as a research assistant. And just having the chance to dive into different pathways of research really helped me decide which direction to go, and decide that I actually liked doing research and not just the idea of it. So definitely just taking advantage of those and just going to your professors and asking if the research is available, because it probably is, and they would probably like you to know more about it. So I'd say that's definitely my most important piece of advice. And then just trusting that you have the background and that people, like that you have the background to do it and that you have the experience and you'll learn what you don't know. So just don't be intimidated by it. I think imposter syndrome is the easiest thing to experience as you enter research or try and switch your path of research, and just kind of trusting that you have the knowledge and they'll teach you what you don't know. And so along those lines, finding mentors who you really like and who you feel confident with and feel comfortable asking questions of.